Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday. Kind of an odd day here of the week. I prefer Friday, but that's okay. It's coming up. 10:07 a.m. California time. June 13th, or June 18th, 2024. Latest quake on the globe shows a 2.9 here, right smack dab on the Cascadia subduction zone. Little odd quake out there. Of course, we've been experiencing quite a bit of Cascadia tremor up and down the board here recently. Good time as ever to watch and be on guard here for some potential larger movement out here. It's been 324 years since we've seen a full rupture out here across the Cascadia subduction zone. Here's yesterday's tremor, 264 tremors here. That brings up the last couple weeks here. We're missing about a week, almost a week here of lack of tremor. But as you can see over the course of a 30-day time period here, things have been quite elevated in terms of tremor counts. Now we're looking at a total of just under 11,000 epicenters of tremor, mainly here across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. And of course, that's where we've been seeing, obviously some earthquake activity upstream from this area as well. Over the last couple days, we've noticed a migration of the swarm, the tremor activity further northward. Excuse me. And that's where we're seeing, today's activity here. A little 2.9. Not a big earthquake, but it is, it's right there on the Cascadia. And who knows what took place back in 1700 there prior to the big 9-pointer. This earthquake can get up in the lower nines, in fact. This is a major subduction zone here, and it can see partial ruptures down south here, or it can see a full rupture, which would result in that lower 9-pointer. So, it's, definitely something of concern when we see a lot of tremor and also some activity stirring up out here. Like I say, we don't know what happened prior to the earthquake back in 1700. Was there swarms of earthquakes up here? Was there, tremor accounts is something new, but we don't know. It's a good time as ever to study the Cascadia, and hopefully after this coming big earthquake, then we can maybe forecast, for the next couple generations there, what to look forward to before a big earthquake. But right now we got a lot of tremor, some various earthquakes here on the Cascadia subduction zone right now. Let me see if this has been reviewed. It's automatic status, so this could get revised. But, nothing shown up on the seismograph stations there. This is a little ways off the coast. So, we'll continue to watch that. We have noticed a little increasing earthquake activity here across the West Coast in general and Southern California. So, I've amped up the California earthquake watch out here due to this increasing activity. This all started, of course, last night following this 5-pointer down here south of the Gulf, but along the plate boundary here. A lot of times we'll see the strain work its way up here across the West Coast, similar to what we've seen a month or so ago with all the swarming down here in Gulf of California and Tijuana area, or south of Tijuana. That resulted in increasing activity up north, and looks like that is playing out today as expected. So what do we have here in the California area for earthquake activity? 3.6, the latest one. Here in the Baja California area, one earthquake there on the border area as well. A little bit of swarming out there around the Mexicali area. And we did see some other earthquakes just below the 2.5 threshold out here in the last 24 hours. So we'll keep an eye here on Southern California. One earthquake there on the Garlock Fault Shear Zone near Tehachapi. That's a 1.5. And as you can see up here in Northern California, it does look like some of these are crustal quakes going on up here due to the strain, the subduction pressure itself here across the southern end of the Cascadia. This earthquake 2.4 across the Sierra Nevada mountains there, pretty shallow. This one underneath Red Bluff, 33 kilometers deep. Now that is just right around the tremor area, which occurs 35 to 45 kilometers deep into this area. But that is associated with the Cascadia subduction zone. With that depth there, that extends well underneath this Northern California area. Another earthquake there into the Sacramento Valley, but 16 kilometers deep. Well underneath this area as well for a 2.8 just outside of Willows. The Bay Area seen a handful of earthquakes as well. Latest one shows a 2.4 inland here, just around the Delta area. Got a little earthquake up here in the New Hampshire area, it looks like as well. 2.6 coming in within the last hour. Around the White Mountains area, I'm sure a few folks felt this. These 2-pointers can get picked up pretty easily. Let's see, did you feel it? Responses coming in there. Quite a few folks around the Bradford area, Vermont, and North Haverhill area, it looks like as well. So a little bit of movement taking place out here across the North American plate in general, as you can see up and down the board here. A couple earthquakes here across the Appalachian Mountains from this morning, a 2.3, 2.3. And most of the time, this activity does work its way in this direction, in this fashion right here, across this area. If we get intense earthquake activity out here like we've seen in the last couple days there across the oil fields, it was only a matter of time before we've seen further uptick here across various areas of the eastern portion of the country. And that's what it looks like it's playing out right now. Yesterday we did see, well, that's another 2.0 there across the New Madrid zone. But we did see some other earthquake activity out here in the 2 range. Seen this morning, and now we got some activity up north. So definitely looking at a little increasing pressure out here across the North American plate. Continue to keep an eye on that. Big Island of Hawaii lighting up slightly out here with some red circles. Couple up here across the Kilauea volcano, just about a kilometer or so below the surface. This last one, though, a 2.1, 0.2 kilometers here on the southern edge of the Kilauea volcano. So let's go see what's going on there across that area today. And towards the end of this video, we'll look at some fires out here in California that's been ramping up. The volcano is obviously not erupting. Let's check out the latest update here. This was put out yesterday, but I think they would have advised us, and we'd see earthquake activity and whatnot in news articles if it was erupting, but it is not erupting right now. Deformation data shows, let's see what it shows here real quick. Make sure the bells are off while I'm doing this update. Shows a continued uptick. Steady as she goes uphill. Literally building a hill out here with this inflation. This region here now quite elevated, and more so prior to this last fissure eruption there on the southwestern rift zone. So we're at a we're at a breaking point here. We got to be. Sooner or later, we're going to see something pop out here, potentially, literally, or we could see some type of magma intrusion take place, maybe across either the southwest rift zone, the east rift zone. We'll have to watch this. Right now, we're elevated with no relief, no pressure vent taking place there at the surface. That would relieve the strain out here. But right now, we're elevated and continuing to go up and up and up. So we'll continue to watch that. Alaska area, a little swarm going on here in the Gulf of Alaska. It looks like it's just right here along this bend. A couple smaller quakes there this morning. Far as down south here, as you can see, getting a little bit of further movement here across New Zealand. New Zealand's been rocking and rolling a little bit here. This is a 19-kilometer deep 4.4, somewhat of a surface adjustment quake. But remember, we've been getting a lot of deeper activity here thanks to the Hikurangi subduction zone. The deeper activity extends within this region underneath North Island area of New Zealand. And, you know, it definitely looks like things want to adjust big time out here. 4.4, along with some 3s in there as well. You can see some of that deeper earthquake activity within the vicinity there of the North Island. Keep an eye on the Hikurangi subduction zone. Obviously, it's been quite a while as well, talking hundreds of years since we've seen a major rupture out here across this subduction zone as well. And who knows what happened prior to that one? Similar to the Cascadia, were they seeing swarming? Were they seeing large amounts of tremor? Who knows? This is all, we're living in the information age right now where everyone knows everything, and It seems like that way anyway. And you know, it's good to keep an eye on these earthquakes and document them. Some further activity up into the Kermadec Trench as well. Does look like the migration here is moving southward along the plate boundary, so keep an eye there on New Zealand. Papua New Guinea area, this earthquake from last, that's the Solomon Islands earthquake, 4.9, but we did have a 4.2 over here, the latest quake, eastern edge there of the Banda Sea. There's a subduction zone here across this region. This one coming in about 79 kilometers deep. Up here across the northwestern corner of the Pacific and adjacent plates, the latest one, a 4.3, pretty deep here into the Izu Trench. Following that, does look like some adjustment further west here across the plate boundary. Remember, the strain adds stress out here across this area. Let me bring up the, where's the one I want? Hold on a second here. Right here. The Pacific plate moving off to the northwest. The Filipino plate, deep activity here into the Izu Trench. That adds further strain here across this area, the crunch zone, where it not only gets the strain from these areas, but also from the Eurasia plate moving to the southeast here. So that's a pretty interesting zone there where a lot of earthquake activity tends to take place, and it looks like it's straining out here right now. No major swarms out here, but we'll keep an eye on Taiwan. They have been swarming there over the last couple months with some large earthquakes. Another three-pointer down there into the Philippines area, it looks like. Java Trench, somewhat quiet, except for a 4.4. Get a little bit of activity north of the Himalayas and the China area. Mediterranean area staying fairly active. Little odd earthquake activity way out in the eastern areas of South America. Not too often do we see earthquake activity out here, but it does happen. These intraplate type earthquakes. 4.3 coming in 6 o'clock this morning here, but let me bring back the historical map. And goodness, as you can see, you know, there's nothing showing up here on 4.5 and above, far as historical earthquakes in the last since 1900 to 2015. So this is somewhat of a rare quake that kicked up there today. Yeah, definitely a lot of strain going on out here across various areas of the plates. Be on guard, folks. All right, space weather activity. Well, really not doing much. We do have, you know, a sunspot here, 3712, that's currently facing us, but yeah, it doesn't look all that promising, to be honest here. A couple days ago, when it was back over here, it was going through a fairly decent growth stage, and then it split, and it really hasn't come back together in terms of complexity since then. But it still harbors some potential maybe for some C flare and low-grade M flare. These areas up north, not so much. And then we're left with a whole lot of nothingness there across the western or the eastern limb of the sun. We do have a couple sunspots to watch here in the coming days that will be coming around the bend in terms of older sunspots here. This region, not quite here. Maybe we'll get a glimpse of this later tonight. It's not doesn't look like it's a massive area, but looks like a series of different sunspots here, similar to what it was last time around here on the Earth-facing side of the sun. And there's 3697. It's hard to say. Can't really tell complexity, but it is still a large area to watch. We'll see that within a week here. Crest the eastern limb, and we'll see if it doesn't supply us with some further X-flaring for the third trip around the sun there to the Earth-facing side. Goodness. All right, so far as flare threat, 10% chance for X-flare, proton 10%, M-flare at 55, and C-flare around 99% chance. No major roars in the forecast there, folks. And there's that most recent far side explosion from 3697, formerly 3664, and it will get renamed again once it comes back around on the Earth-facing side there. Storm Prediction Center out here. Got a slight risk for some severe weather with a 5 and 2% chance here for some tornado activity here across this region. So just a heads up, maybe some water spouts out here across this area due to some tropical development going on there across the Corpus Christi area and Brownsville. Wind and maybe some hail threats in there as well. All right, watch duty. This is the app to check out for fires. And man, California is definitely ramping up here with some fires right now. This is the fire that I was live streaming yesterday. It was at about 1,300 or about 13 to 1,500 acres yesterday, late afternoon. Look what it has grown to overnight, 10,000 acres. That is quite incredible with rapid spread of growth out here across the, this is the foothills here of the Coast Range, and then you get to the higher elevation here. It hasn't quite made it up here, but look at this. We're getting a little flow here of wind. You see those little lines that look like, well, they're wind lines. They're kind of blowing the fire off in this direction, and if it catches this area on fire, then we got an issue because this is somewhat heavily more forested type areas. And then, you know, then you got Clear Lake down here, and it's just not good. That could turn into a worst case scenario. There is no containment yet on this. 10,000 acres with no containment. I think it's going to come up in here and be a bad fire. This is one of the latest images here. It looks like they got 4 Type 1 air tankers, 3 tankers, 4 Type 1 choppers, and 1 lead plane has been requested to the incident. So they've been flying all day yesterday. I've been hearing them buzz over, taking off from the Chico airport, and also outside of Marysville, Yuba City, that airport down there. And they've been hammering this thing, but they haven't even made a dent in it. So it's a little odd that it hasn't even made a dent in this. No containment whatsoever. 10,000 acres, evacuation orders in place for various areas out here. There's a couple very small communities out here. Leesville, I believe it is. And there's just various houses, so that's not good news for those folks. Higher population region is going to be down south here, the Clear Lake area. But hopefully they get this thing out before then. That's grown into a big fire overnight. I'm thinking about going out and covering that here soon. It's not that far of a drive for me to at least get into a view here to see what's going on, get some aerial views of the choppers. And I got my battery charged here tonight or last night, so I'm good to go on the camera. The issue with the camera zooming in yesterday, I found out what that was. Someone called me right in the middle of the live stream, so I had to turn it on. No notifications being allowed, and then when it back to the live stream, it was like zoomed in and it would never go back out. So I know what to do to prevent that from now on. But yeah, that's a big fire. The one up here in Redding does look like they are getting a handle on it. That's a new one here. 45 acres up here. Hidden fire. The hidden fire. Imagine that. This looks like some type of structure fire. So right now, the main big one here is outside the Maxwell area around sites. Another big fire starting up here. 20% containment on this. That is, what do they have these prescribed burns? Look at that, prescribed burns. We have prescribed burns up here in Chico, Yuba City. Why? Why are you guys burning on a windy, hot day? That doesn't make sense. Come on. A little fire here. Bigger ones down south, once again, the post fire. But the sites fire here is rapidly catching up to this one. This is at 24% containment, 15,000 acres burned. Evacuation zones obviously in effect. It does look like it's headed southward into some rough terrain out there. So we'll continue to watch it. Just these fires popping up out of the blue suspiciously, folks. Kind of odd. What's crazy is that this area right here where the fire started is chatted about here in amongst local politics of the site's reservoir dam. They're talking about building a huge reservoir up here, specifically right there where the fire started. I find that a little odd. and damming a bunch of water that comes down from the mountains. So they'll have, storage of water. It's the site's reservoir. Look it up. I'm not going to cover that much, but I find it really odd that there'd be a major fire right there where they're planning development. All right, and as you can see, it looks like the entire west here is on fire. Not really, but it's just there's a lot of fires starting up, and it's only June. It's only June, folks. So I can only imagine here what this thing is going to look like in the next couple months. I hope not. I really hope that these don't start up, but it looks like it's going to be a bad, bad fire season out here already. All right, I'm going to go out here probably in a little bit, see if I can't get some video of the site's fire up there. So look for that secondary live stream, and keep an eye there on the West Coast. I have kicked up the earthquake watch here, California earthquake watch, just to keep that up here on the screen right now due to increasing activity out here across the West Coast. We'll catch you guys back out here in a little bit on a secondary live stream if you guys want to tune in for that fire. Take care, folks.